Episode number 51, solo today. We are nearly there, although I was a little bit slack last week and missed an episode just due to work getting in the way, as it often does. But we're nearly there after this one. One more episode and we've hit the magic mark of 52. My goal was to get to 52 episodes or 12 months and then to revise, see if I'm still enjoying it and go from there. I know I keep saying it, so I have a few podcast guests coming up. People are just busy this time of the year. A few US guests, obviously summertime, people traveling, moving around. But I do have a couple of people I stay in touch with on Twitter. One of the guys is a sports physiologist. He'll be interesting to speak to. He's written an ebook on VO2 max, and quite a good runner himself. I think he ran a 15 point something minute 5K the other week. It's only 31, but he'll be a good young guy to speak to. Chris has been on the last couple of weeks, if you've listened. And yeah, he's preparing for what's probably going to be his last meets in Sweden, I believe. His last track meet, that is. As you probably already know, Chris and I are a little bit older, and I retired about 8 years ago, and Chris is still going. He's got one more meet, and then he'll still keep training, he said, but he won't go through the whole race preparation. It's a big commitment, even as a masters athlete. When you take it pretty seriously and you want to do well, it is a big commitment. Anyway, I wanted to talk about plyometrics. I've seen a little bit of a few articles floating around on Twitter and a few podcasts and a few newsletters recently just about plyometrics. And it's interesting. It's when these things all of a sudden become a little bit more popular. So I thought I would just give you my own view and perspective on plyometrics, how we use them, what I think of them, and whether you should be doing them or not. I think first of all, what is a plyometric? Well, technically it's, any type of exercise. Sprinting is really a plyometric type sport where you have that tension in the muscle, and that energy stored that propels you forward quite aggressively. So lots of sports require plyometric power or plyometric strength. Obviously basketball, volleyball, any sport that involves jumping. Some more difficult than others. I would say one of the most aggressive plyometric sports, if you've ever tried to do it, is triple jump. Super aggressive with that hop, step and jump. And if you've ever watched a triple jumper train, their plyometric power is second to none. Their power to weight ratio in the gym is unbelievable. Some of these guys are just incredible. And that is a really challenging sport. That first plant of the foot on the board and your body just comes to a grinding halt. If you don't have core strength, glute strength, back strength, your whole body just wants to buckle and fall underneath you. I can remember about, 10, 15 years ago, I was quite a good triple jumper as a junior, very junior. Didn't really go on with that as my football, which I've said before, took over my life, Australian football, Aussie rules. And then I didn't triple jump for a long time. And we had a guy at our track, an older gentleman, that he could still long jump into his 70s, would you believe? And I decided to go and just jump on, the triple jump track with him one night and have a few jumps. And I remember coming in a little bit hot. I was still sprinting pretty well then. And hitting that board and my entire body just buckled. It was like this piece of cardboard and this wave going through me. It was quite incredible, the feeling of it. I remember my hips just being jammed forward. My ankle felt like it was going to shear off the end of my foot. It's a really aggressive sport. But anyway, I digress. Plyometrics. I think they're a great exercise, and I think everybody could incorporate some sort of plyometrics into their training. Just remember, there's a risk reward to all these things. And depending on what you're trying to achieve should determine what level of plyometrics you program into your training and how difficult or aggressive the plyometric exercise should be. The most simple plyometric exercise, and again, I think this is really good advice. I heard it the other day and I couldn't agree more. The basics and the fundamentals are often all most people need. And it is boring as batshit, to be honest. Sometimes these fundamentals, you'll get majority of your gains out of just on these simple basic things, as opposed to trying to apply some of these more complex plyometric exercises like, running bounds and so forth, that you really have to be conditioned to complete. So one of the most simple plyometric exercises you can do, I believe in the US they call it pogo jumps. I would just call it double foot jumps. And it's literally just standing on the spot. And if you haven't done any type of plyometric exercise before or for a long time, and even if you're a conditioned runner, you will find these quite difficult. But standing up on your toes and literally just aggressively pressing off your toes up and down the spot. You only need to come off the ground an inch, 2.5 centimeters, and you will find that you quickly fatigue around your ankle, your calves, and even maybe your hips. But one thing that plyometrics will give you, it gives you a lot of tendon strength. And it's one of the reasons, obviously, elite sprinters and elite jumpers, track athletes do a lot of plyometric work, is because of this strengthening of the tendon effect that you get. And it was one thing that we would do when I was younger, loads of plyometrics. It was part of our, probably at least a weekly session, sometimes twice a week. Sometimes they'd be incorporated into our warm-up. A lot of track coaches used them in warm-ups. As I became a masters athlete, we did some sort of plyometrics, even your A skips and your B skips, and your butt kicks are still a plyometric type of exercise, but they're not your aggressive type plyometric exercises with speed bounds, box jumps, stair bounds, these running bounds, sandpit jumps, and so forth. But yeah, so your typical box jump in the gym is considered a plyometric. Depth jumps, standing on a box, stepping off, and then as you hit the ground with 2 feet, you try and bound off that. One of the most difficult plyometric exercises, I personally used to love them, was hurdle jumps. They're always funny to watch people do these. You have the hurdles quite close together, and you would see athletes become really intimidated by the hurdle in front of them. They would step out to the side, jump, they can easily clear the hurdle, step back in behind the hurdle, can't get over the hurdle. One of the guys that I coached, he would actually get that mental sort of block all the time when he was in behind the hurdle. I might post a little video in the link below to some hurdle bounds that we used to do at training. We used to quite often include those, particularly for the power athletes. We did a lot of plyometric work for the bobsledder. Obviously, it's very much a power sport. But yeah, I didn't want to sort of go into too much depth, and to be honest, I don't know a lot of the science around it. I just know the benefits, from doing them for a very long time. Definitely the tendon strength you would get. On the flip side, though, if you do too many plyometrics too quickly, you will quickly fatigue your tendons, and particularly Achilles tendon, and you may be hobbling around for days and or weeks if you overdo these. Remembering that plyometrics is, you're not going out and doing an hour session of plyometrics. They're typically integrated at the start of training or integrated into your workout. And one of the things we would like to do, and I spoke about this on not a podcast, on a Twitter Spaces event a little while ago, was doing warm-ups as a training session. So we would often turn up to training, and if we were doing plyometrics, we would do a good warm-up, plyometrics, and then do the same warm-up routine we would normally go through after the plyometrics, and that would be an entire session. So that would be our plyometric session technically. So, a lot of people use them in the gym. You can obviously do, some heavy jump squats and then take the weight off and then do some box jumps. There's lots of combinations of these type of exercises. Sitting down on a seat and then trying to explode off the seat onto a step above you. So there's lots of variations of these, but my suggestion would be, if you've never done them before, or even if you are somewhat of a conditioned athlete, start with pogo sticks or bunny hops or double foot jumps on the spot, and just start integrating them into your week very slowly. 3 sets of 10, increasing that to maybe 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15, 3 sets of 20 on the spot. or go for time, 3 sets of 20 seconds, whatever it may be. And then you could bring that into a small box jump, getting up to a higher box, and then progressing through that way. But unless you are a younger sprinter and really need that really aggressive plyometric power, I don't recommend going into things like speed bounds and some of these more aggressive plyometric exercises. Speed bounds is probably one of the most aggressive ones. We would do them over a distance. We would have a mark on the ground of 30 meters. And the idea behind that was a short run-in, and you would have to try and take the least amount of steps over that 30 meters. And if you watch a good athlete do that, you will see they actually don't take many steps at all. Their ability to actually take that awesome bound, and as I said, the best athletes I've seen do this are long jumpers. The other athlete for you younger guys out there and girls may not know Linford Christie, but for the older athletes you will. He was one of the most dynamic plyometric sprinters I've ever seen. His plyometric strength and power was incredible. I've seen him do one leg Nordic curls before. Just incredible athlete, incredible power. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I've seen a little bit going around recently. I think they're a great exercise, but definitely take it easy. They will hit your tendons really hard, and you've always got to weigh up that risk reward. If you are going pretty well in your training at the moment and there's no great benefit, the same thing I would recommend to most people about squatting and deadlifts. People go on about squats and deadlifts all the time. I was a massive advocate. I'm not a great deadlifter. Don't love the exercise. Have quite a long torso. I don't find my levers really suit deadlifting. Maybe my ankles have been too tight and some of my mobility hasn't been great. Squatting a little bit the same, but I was much better squatter than what I was a deadlifter. However, they're technical exercises. They're not just something that you walk into the gym, stand on the bar and just, up and down you go, or, put a bar on the floor, put some weights on it and pull it off the floor. They take some time to actually learn the correct technique. And if you're not au fait with that technique, you can very quickly get injured. And then you've got to say, well, what's the benefit of this exercise? Is there something else that's actually safer, that I get a similar benefit or 80% of the benefit without actually the risk part coming into it? I'm still doing deadlifts, but I have swapped out to a trap bar deadlift. I find it's much more convenient for my body type. I can squat straight up and down and stand straight up, as opposed to having to have that pull off the floor first. Some people may be saying, well, I don't have the mobility, I don't have the flexibility, I don't have the technique. You're probably right. I've also realized that risk reward, every time I deadlift, I end up with a bit of a jam sacroiliac joint for a couple of days. My hip and my glute never feels great, so I just don't see the benefit. Same with squatting, and I love squatting. I keep getting sucked back into it. I keep getting under the bar and wanting to do heavy squats, but there is so many more exercises that you can actually swap out for heavy bar squats. Single leg Romanians, Bulgarian split squats, even sissy bar squats, hack squats, lunges, walking lunges, reverse lunges, all these types of exercises where you don't have this massive weight sitting on your shoulder, pushing down on you, compressing your spine and needing that technique and that core strength, I think potentially are much better for particularly most runners anyway. So anyway, I won't go on too long. It's pretty short and sweet. Just wanted to touch on plyometrics. I might throw a few little programs out there around plyometrics, just some ideas. I will post in the show notes some of our plyometric drills, our hurdle bounds in particular, just a bit of a funny video of the Olympic bobsledder that I used to coach, doing his plyos at training, remembering that he is a 100-kilo athlete, 220 odd pounds. The other thing I wanted to put out there, that if anyone has any questions, please hit me up. You can leave a question on Spotify, I believe. I think there's a section to actually ask a question. Secondly, you can email me at runfasthq@gmail.com. That's runfasthq, or one word, @gmail.com. Even if you've got a training program, you want me to have a look at that, happy to have a look at that, review it and send it back to you. So yeah, if you've got any questions, hit me up and I'll review your programs. I've got a lot of friends in the space that, different types of athletes that I can always hit up and ask questions as well. So that is it. Hope you're having a great week. Hope your running's going well, and bye for now.